Thank you, John. Great to be back here again. My name is Jansson. I'm the commercial director at CorPower, which is a company on the verge to make wave energy a commercially viable renewable energy source. So what makes this so interesting is basically that the opportunity is so big. We're talking about plus 500 gigawatts available and commercially viable around the globe. And waves are interesting because they are more constant than, for example, wind and solar. And it also has sort of a balancing effect on the grid. We can see that there's most likely a delay of 1 to 3 days when you have the peak of wind power along the European coast and when you have the peak of waves coming in. So instead of investing a lot into storage, you get both a production unit and a storage unit, which is going to be needed if we want to go to 100% renewable energy in a close future. But obviously, there's a challenge to this. We're operating in an environment that is really fierce. So the challenge is really to survive in this area. And at the same time, we need to maximize our revenue to the cost that we have. Our approach to this is that we need to minimize the peak loads, because that's what's driving capital cost, and at the same time maximize the average annual load. And last year was a really good year for us because we were able to prove our system off the coast of Scotland. So what we have is a system that is detuned in big storm waves. So similar to pitching a blade, we let the waves sort of pass by because we can make this transparent by using a pre-tension system, pulling it down, making it very high frequent into the waves, so they pass by, and by that, we get rid of the peak loads. And then we have another system that in operation can amplify the length of the stroke and the speed in every stroke by 10 times. And by doing that, we can produce significantly more power than seen before. So we now have a new sort of state-of-the-art in structural efficiency. You can measure structural efficiency in different ways. But I would say that the easiest way is to how many megawatt hours per ton can you produce? Because then you compare your revenue with your capital cost. So we produce approximately 10 times more than has been seen before in wave energy. And we are now matching the most modern wind turbines of 10, 14 megawatts in structural efficiency. And if you then look at the cost of electricity, which is going to be the key component here, we see that we have a clear path to 40 euros per megawatt hour. And this has not really been heard of before in wave energy. But the reason why we can do this is because of the physics of this technology. So we have the same structural efficiency as the most modern wind turbines, but we operate in an environment that has 5 times higher power density than wind. And for that reason, we see that we can get to this. And by having a good track record, by proving our technology in the ocean, and by having third-party, we spent a lot of time on our LCU modeling, bringing in a number of different external experts to really verify these numbers, we have gained quite a lot of market traction and a lot of interest, even though we are not in a commercial stage yet. So we now have a pipeline of approximately 300 megawatts in Norway, in Ireland, in the UK, and in Portugal. And we see that we will become sort of commercially bankable in 2023, meaning that we have all certifications on the production, the material, the supply chain, etc., meaning that we can insure the technology and we can get underwriters to underwrite the projects for our customers. And that means by 2023, we want to have a order stock of about 100 megawatts and a big sort of conditional order book. So this is a really interesting opportunity because we now have the world's most effective wave energy power plant that we have proven in the sea in the north of Scotland. We have been really good at raising public funding to not dilute, but also to ensure that we have sufficient funding. So we raised about 24 million euros so far, but only 2.5 million of that is actually equity funding. And we see going forward that we can have a similar funding package, which obviously makes the investment really, really interesting in a return on investment for our investors. Really dedicated team and board, and we are now opening up our next round, where we have secured a bit more than 50% of the investment from one big industrial corporate and one VC fund focused on green investment. So if you want to talk more about this, please contact me here or later. Thank you very much.